This is Brian at Atlanta Hot Tub Center. Today I want to do a quick recap on shell surfaces. I had some people ask me, hey Brian, show me the difference between a hand-rolled fiberglass self-supporting shell and one that is not. So a quick recap, right? A hand-rolled self-supporting shell in the industry today is basically made by a giant piece of acrylic. That piece of acrylic, it is heated up. When it starts to melt, it is vacuum formed to a shell mold, right? After that, they use a resin. The resin keeps vapor. It keeps vapor out, right? Keeps water out. Keeps the spa from blistering. Right? So that's what that barrier does. And then they have the fiberglass, right? And your cheaper hot tubs in the industry today, like your Costco, Sam's Club, Home Depot, Lowe's, those kind of guys, they're just blowing because they're mass produced. They're just blowing fiberglass onto the back side of that shell, and then they're using some type of a grid system, right? And from this grid system, they're cutting pieces of wood and stuff, and they're putting that on the pressure points, right? You have a lot of pressure when you fill up a shell full of water, and so they need a way to support that. But the problem is over the years, through expansion and contraction and stuff, outside and things like that, that support starts to weaken. Also the water, right, flexing off and on those pressure points, it starts to weaken. And when it starts to weaken like that, we see the shells kind of warp a little bit, right? We see some jets starting to leak, where we start to see some plumbing leaks and things like that. And that's why a hand-rolled self-supporting shell is so important. What the hand-rolled self-supporting shell is first things first, the acrylic. Before they mold that acrylic, before they start to heat it up and all that, that acrylic is much thicker, all right? And the process takes about 10 times as long than one that is not self-supporting. And so what happens here is after they do the resin, right, again, the resin keeps out the water and so forth, keeps it from delaminating and blisters and things like that. They hand roll the fiberglass on, right? And when they hand roll this fiberglass on, first things first, that fiberglass is so much thicker. If you feel a supported shell, then it's much thinner. A hand-rolled supported shell is much thicker, right? You can really tell the difference, but they hand roll that on, and it takes so much longer to do, but as a result, the shell can support itself. So what that means is if we take off all the cabinetry, if we take off all the foam, and we take out all the wood and everything else, the shell can sit here full of water, and it won't crack or break or fall apart, right? So what I have here in front of me is a hot tub that is a non-self-supporting shell. All right, so let's look at this and look at how it's done. And this is what I mean by a grid system. I'm actually going to start over here. And you can see this grid system here, right? You can see this grid system down here, and this grid system goes all the way up underneath the shell surface, and the bottom of the shell down there sits on this grid system. And as you look around, I've got a light to kind of show you. This is something that you could look for, right? If you were looking at a dealership spa and you opened up their cabinet, you see down in here, you see this cut piece of wood here? You shouldn't have that in a self-supporting a hot tub shell, right? Because that's holding up a seat where a pressure point is. Or, look, you could come over here to this side. And we've got another one over here. I'm going to bring the light around here just so I can kind of show you. Let's bring the light around here. But see, down here, there's one plain as day, right? So you have these all over underneath all these seats and the foam and stuff, right? Because this isn't a self-supporting shell. And again, right now, when you first buy it, no problem, right? But 8, 9, 10 years down the road, you can really have some issues. This is Brian at Atlanta Hot Tub Center and the follow-up to the self-supporting shell.